Donald Trump's approval rating continues to plummet, the worst in presidential history. Not a shocker after all of the disasters that he is putting this country through. Another humiliating Oval Office visit by a foreign leader. The president of South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa, visited the White House, and Donald Trump started showing him white supremacist genocide propaganda that is just completely and utterly fabricated. What an embarrassing sight for Donald Trump to be showing these conspiracy theories and making the president of South Africa watch these things, as Donald Trump was pulling like random conspiracy-laden Facebook accounts. And the South African president was like, what the hell are you even showing me? And the international community looks on with absolute horror. I want to remind everybody as well that June 14th, No Kings protest, Indivisible once again running those protests with some other groups. We're going to be making sure we promote that, because we, the people, need to take to the streets peacefully, especially when the MAGA Republicans are at it again, pushing through in the middle of this night, this disastrous murder bill, because that's what it is. This ain't a budget bill when it removes 14 million people from the health care that they need to survive. You call it a murder bill. We also learned that in addition to gutting people's Medicaid, it's also attacking people on Medicare. We know that it's removing supplemental nutrition assistance programs, food stamps. It's removing rental assistance. It's basically gutting the budget for HUD. It's gutting the budget for FEMA. But guess what? It has removed all regulations for silencers, and there's no longer fees associated with getting a suppressor. So somehow that's in the bill. Also, tax exemptions for tanning beds. And of course, if you are a billionaire, you just got massive tax cuts from the largest redistribution of wealth in American history, from people who are already living paycheck to paycheck. Those paychecks are being snatched. So the billionaire Mar-a-Lago class can get more tax cuts, more private jets, more mansions. Talking about the Mar-a-Lago billionaire class, Donald Trump is hosting this evening a event for his meme coin holders, the people who have paid the most money for Donald Trump's disastrous meme coin, where I think only 24 wallets actually made money, while literally tens of thousands of people who bought this meme coin lost tons and tons of money. But yes, Donald Trump is hosting this meeting, and the Trump regime is refusing to list the attendees who have spent at least around $1 million for meme coins to meet with Donald Trump. Also, we've learned that Donald Trump has upped the fees at Mar-a-Lago. It's now $1 million if you want that access and you want to join Mar-a-Lago. And the federal government officially accepted the Qatari gold-plated jet that Donald Trump's going to use in his personal capacity after he leaves, which he claims it's going to be for the a presidential library, which is not created, which basically means Donald Trump's going to ferry around or fly around his other billionaire oligarch buds. On the authoritarian front, what's not on the authoritarian front with this kakistocracy, but the Trump regime deported a Burmese national to South Sudan in violation of a federal court order from Judge Murphy in Massachusetts. Judge Murphy found a violation of his order. I think we're going to be heading towards criminal contempt, by the way, which is why in that disastrous tax bill, there is a provision to remove criminal contempt and contempt as a power that federal judges have. Of course, that's patently unconstitutional, but what else would you expect from the MAGA Republicans in Congress, who have also decided to rename savings accounts to Trump savings accounts? That's one of the things that they had to change before the bill was pushed through in the House of Representatives. Also, on the authoritarian front, the Trump regime is saying that any international student that goes to Harvard will be declared illegal and unlawfully in the United States, and they will get immediately deported to who knows where. Concentration camps in El Salvador, South Sudan, Libya, maybe their home country, who knows. The Trump regime attacking Harvard because Harvard is standing up to it and the Trump regime wanted to fully capture it. So they're going after international students. So we used to get the brain drain from other countries, the best and the brightest coming to the United States. Now China, Europe, Canada, elsewhere are taking the best students away from the United States as the Trump regime dismantles everything here in the United States of America. And we'll talk about this Supreme Court ruling, which was a bad one, which basically is allowing Donald Trump to fire the leaders, the heads, the chair people of these independent agencies, although it seems that the one exception is going to be the Federal Reserve. And that's where the Supreme Court's going to say that they're not going to allow Trump to fire Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. We'll talk about that and more. So I guess you can say a busy week indeed, Brett and Jordy. Let's get into it.
A big week indeed. And it looks like we lost Jordy for a second. I'm not sure where he went, but oh, there he is. Jordy, welcome back to the show. A busy week indeed. Each day gets worse than the next, to be honest. And I think the thing that has always been consistent in the era of Trump is the alarmists have always been right. The alarmists have always been told it's not as bad as you think it's going to be. It's not going to be as bad as you think. And it is always not only as bad, but somehow worse because Donald Trump concocts these ridiculous new ways of destroying the country, of destroying the world. And we are seeing that day by day, these authoritarian attacks on all of our institutions, whether it's institutions like USAID or whether it's institutions like Harvard, things that the United States was well respected for, things that were revered, things that people looked up to as the gold standard in our country are the things that Donald Trump is attacking as he tries to destroy this country. And that budget bill is just the perfect example of all the craziness that is going on. It just sums up the kakistocracy with the stupidity of the Trump administration, with the pure evilness of what they are doing. Remember that quote from Joe Biden, that famous quote from Joe Biden, where he said, listen, don't tell me what you value. Show me your budget and I'll tell you what you value. And this budget from House Republicans here is so insane. It makes their values very clear, ripping away from the needy Americans, ripping away from the people who rely on government programs, who rely on Medicare, on Medicaid, who rely on food stamps, giving the biggest tax break ever to the wealthy, making the rich richer as they laugh at the other people in this country and tell them to say thank you for whatever little other tax provisions they did to try to make him happy. The brainwashing here, the messaging here from the Republican Party could not be more disingenuous. But I got to say, guys, I got to give it up to these Democrats who, let's face it, are getting a lot of crap these days, a lot of it warranted, some of it not warranted, but they really stood up. They came to fight. They were there overnight. They were putting in new amendments. They were doing every procedural move that they possibly could. They delayed this thing. They exposed this thing. And I got to give it up to them. You got to give them their due when they do the work that we sent them to Washington for. So good stuff there. We're going to break it all down. Jordy, welcome back. How you doing? What's the latest?
Let's go. Excited for today's show. It's going to be a deep episode from what I understand here. So I just want to start off on a brief light note. The brothers don't even know this Midas Mighty, so I'm going to show them for the first time as well. Guys, look what came today. Let's go. The Webby Award, Podcast of the Year. We got the Webby Award. Thank you guys so much.
Jordy's holding his Webby for the audio listeners, and he literally you didn't tell us about this at all.
No, it just came. It just came right before the show, and this is all.
I think Jordy, did you just swindle the award? You got the award?
Yep, boom, just right there. So I just want to say thank you guys so much. Seriously, before we get going, it's all thanks to you guys that we even have this. It's a community. It's a win for everyone here. Right. I might have the trophy, but it's literally for the Midas Mighty, for this pro-democracy community. Because look, this is what truth means to people, right? This is why we were the Podcast of the Year. It's all thanks to you guys for wanting to be truth tellers and truth seekers and relying on us to give you guys the facts, the data, the receipts that we bring every night and that we're going to bring to this show today. So thank you guys seriously so much. This is absolutely incredible. This is your award as much as it is ours.
Epic,
so thank you guys. Thank you. Benji, where do you want to start off today?
Donald Trump is a felon. He's a fraud. He's a sexual abuser. He is someone who has bankrupted company after company. He's a destroyer and not a builder. He's someone who handles debt very poorly. His fraud case involved him making up valuations, just coming up with fake numbers in order to manipulate markets and manipulate lenders and manipulate insurance companies. And so when you have someone who engages in that behavior, a very low character individual who should be imprisoned right now, he should be in jail right? That's where he belongs. He's a vile piece of trash. So that's where he belongs. But now he's running the country, and he's running the country the same way he destroyed Atlantic City. I mean, just take Atlantic City, for example, right? I mean, he bought 3 casinos right next to each other. Everyone said that's the stupidest thing ever. Why are you buying 3? You're going to cannibalize them, and then you've over leveraged this transaction. You're not going to be able to pay back your lenders. They're going to go bankrupt. And what did Donald Trump do? He had a big flashy opening, got all of the media. Michael Jackson showed up, gold this, gold that. You got to go big. You got to go big. Any whistleblower or person that said this is the stupidest thing ever, Donald Trump made sure that they got fired. They ended up suing him. I know there are some cases where Donald Trump settled confidentially with those individuals. It's the same story with him. And what happened? Atlantic City goes bankrupt. Trump's casinos go bust. People lose their jobs. People lose their livelihoods. Donald Trump screws them, but Donald Trump's able to, extract money for himself. He blames others. He blames the city. I would have been great. I would have been great. Blah, 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 blah. It's just the same shtick over and over again, and he's a one-trick pony. He does the same stuff. And I'll just give you an example using the Felon as a framework. I mean, during Donald Trump's criminal trial, what would he do? He would have literally someone who worked for him called the human printer was her name. She's the human printer. She'd run around with a portable printer, and she would give him these right-wing brain rot slop articles from like the depths, the dredges of the internet, the craziest stuff. And he would go and he would read the articles, or he would have like Fox hosts write the articles for him. And he would read these articles as though he was like reading facts. This is exactly what he did in the Oval Office. He had the human printer hand him like Facebook, like crazy right-wing, extremist, racist, like Facebook articles, like pro-apartheid Facebook pages. And he would be reading these things to President Ramaphosa, Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa. And President Ramaphosa of South Africa was someone who fought to end apartheid with Nelson Mandela. Ramaphosa was there with the white agriculture minister, the guy who's in charge of the farms. He brought the white agriculture minister with him, which I thought was a brilliant move. He brought some white golfers with him as well. So he would tell Donald Trump, he's go, ask the white guy, okay? And you want to ask the white agriculture minister if there's a genocide happening with white people? It's not happening. That doesn't exist. Don't you? Why would the white Afrikaner agriculture minister be here with me right now if there was a genocide? He's right here. And Donald Trump's like, well, let me show you the video. Let me show you the video. Do you know how humiliating that makes us look? Do you know how ridiculous? These aren't wins for America. This makes America look like the craziest place. So no wonder the latest data says that in terms of tourism from Europe, it's down 25%. That's a big freaking number. A quarter of all travel from Europe to the United States done. In Canada, that's closer to 50 to 75%. I just want you to think about these staggering numbers. In Australia, elsewhere, it's those types of numbers. And that's going to ultimately show up in the data next quarter, quarters after, 2026, 2027. Let me just show you, though, when I say Trump's a one-trick pony. Here Donald Trump is at his felony trial, where I think this one's the felony trial, where he was at so many trials last year, the civil trial, felony trial. But here he is going through these articles, one by one. And let's just take a look at, I'm not sure, let's see if this was the civil or the criminal, but here, play this clip.
And even having to do with articles, somebody writes an article. If I read every one of these articles incomplete, I read some of it and I'll look at headlines, all good headlines, and the case is a sham. But I can't read the whole thing. I'd be reading, this is like reading a novel. So I put an article in, and then somebody's name is mentioned somewhere deep in the article, and I end up in violation of a gag order. I think it's a disgrace. It's totally unconstitutional. I don't believe it's never, not to this extent, ever happened before.
So you see him, he's holding the articles, and that's what he was doing with President Ramaphosa of South Africa. So let's think about this scene right now, right? You're in the Oval Office. the Oval Office, right? Donald Trump has like made this office the most gaudy, crazy looking thing also by like spray painting everything gold. He's got all of these, like everywhere you look, there's like these like portraits of everybody around him. Like there's like no space for anything. Everything's painted gold around him. You've got Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend is one of the reporters that gets access to this thing. And Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend is further perpetuating these lies about like white genocide in South Africa, asking a question. And remember, Brian Glenn was the guy who attacked Zelensky for not wearing a suit. So they have him ask questions like that. And then you have the president of South Africa saying, why don't you ask the agriculture minister? He's white. That's what he goes. He goes, he's white. Here, play this clip.
Numbers of people that want to leave South Africa because they feel they're going to be dead very soon. Yes, please.
I was going to say,
Brian, go.
If I could just ask you a question. 72% of farmers in your country are white. If they flee, do you feel that maybe the economy could collapse? You may not have a gap to fill in those people that need to replace those farmers.
You know, I'd like my Minister of Agriculture, who is white, who comes from an opposition party to mine, who's joined my government at my invitation to address this very issue, including the question that you've just raised. John?
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Yeah.
Mr. President, thank you for welcoming us to the White House. I would say we have a rural safety problem in South Africa. I don't think anyone wants to candy coat that. And it requires a lot of effort to get on top of it. It's going to require more policing resources. It's going to require different strategy to be able to deal with it. But certainly the majority of South Africa's commercial and smallholder farmers really do want to stay in South Africa and make it work. And I've just come from the largest agricultural show in the Southern Hemisphere with organized agriculture and farmers, and the majority of them want to stay. But they too there have a memorial to those who've died as a result of farm attacks. And as the Minister of Agriculture, it is something that I'm particularly exercised with my colleagues of police and my colleagues in the justice cluster to start making farm attacks and stock theft a priority crime. And it affects all farmers in South Africa, particularly stock theft. It has a disproportionate effect on smallholder black farmers.
Brett and Jordy, I'll call you in right there. I thought it was, though, just seeing, though, the civil discourse, though, between President Ramaphosa of South Africa, the agriculture minister, the respect that they're from different parties. And according to Trump, you have Ramaphosa's committing genocide against the guy right there. And so that's how crazy and deranged this conspiracy that they're pushing is. And Trump keeps on pushing it there.
It's quite the scene. Honestly, it's quite the scene. Let me point you over to this white gentleman over here to combat your disinformation. All right, Mr. President. Yeah, I am indeed white, but I'm not being genocided. It's absolutely like the crazy. The whole scene is crazy. You know, I at minimum, I think it seems like a bit of a problem that the president of the United States is making policy based on watching debunked Facebook videos. This is like if your crazy, uncle out there or whatever. It's like the things that you get sent in your, forward and chain emails. Did you see this? Did you see, what Obama was doing? Did you hear about the Hillary cabal? Did you hear about the South Africa genocide? And you're like, okay, uncle, this is nuts. I get it. You're crazy. But everything they showed, like they showed these videos that literally are just like viral slop that go, are from X or Facebook. They're nothing like what they're talking about at all, but they build these fake narratives. But this is the danger of Trump's lies. And this is why I've always said that his lying is not just about mere lying. It has actual consequences because he then takes those lies and he puts them into policy. He takes those lies and tries to punish other countries for it. He tries to attack other people for it. This is basically the cats and the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating this is that. But now in the Oval Office with a world leader, and he is yelling at this world leader, kind of reminiscent of the Zelensky in the Oval Office situation, based on a completely false premise where nothing even exists. There is no there. So you have the president of South Africa who has to sit there and kind of baby the guy. Okay, Mr. President. Okay. Let me, I don't really know what you're talking about, but let me redirect you to this guy. The whole scene is just completely embarrassing from start to finish. And then you have the sycophants around Donald Trump who just back up his every word. You have J.D. Vance kind of looking at, he has that same sort of sniveling look that he had when Zelensky was in there. And he's passing, Donald Trump these various papers. Our researchers here at MeidasTouch, they did a deep dive. They saw one of the papers that Donald Trump was holding up during that press conference. And it was one that J.D. Vance was looking at a little bit. And then J.D. Vance picked it up, handed it over to Trump. Trump picks it up. He reads from it. Trump calls it an article. Trump says, I have these articles right here that are speaking about all the murders of the white people in South Africa. I look at these articles. So our researchers here, they found a high resolution photo of the article in question. They traced it back to a Facebook post on just a random Facebook user who is a white nationalist Facebook user whose all of his posts are more racist than the next. I'm not going to show them here because they're so racist. First off, I don't even want to put that out into the world on this stream. But they'd probably get me banned from YouTube, quite frankly. They'd probably get me banned from these podcasting platforms if I even showed them to you. They're that horrific. We do have them on our MeidasPlus.com. We have all the research there if you want to go, just so you don't have to take my word for it. MeidasPlus.com, our Substack. We have the deep dive on where Donald Trump was getting his information from. But it was literally coming from Facebook posts by avowed white nationalists who would post racist content, content of anti-Black content, just the most horrific stuff you have ever seen, spreading this lie of the genocide that these MAGA influencers and these Trump followers then just repeat as if it's gospel.
Brett, it's such a brilliant point that I don't want it to get overlooked because you said it quickly. Where have we heard this story before? This is the Haitian immigrants in Ohio. They're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs. It's that disgusting, vile conspiracy that Donald Trump likes to perpetuate, these racist conspiracies. Why? Because it's red meat for his audience, for his MAGA base. MAGA, don't look at your 401ks since Trump took office. No, don't do that. Don't look at the stock market right now. Don't look at the Medicare and the Medicaid that congressional Republicans are stripping. Not the SNAP programs either. Don't look there what congressional Republicans did last night. We don't want you focused on that. We need you to focus on the real issues, MAGA base. The white South African farmer genocide. Look there. Point all your energy there. That's what Donald Trump does, right? He's trying to distract. And I think in 2017, the media landscape was not built to hold Donald Trump accountable for everything. But that's what I'm so proud about with this community here is that we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We could point all of those things out, and we will throughout the course of this episode. And we could also say, hey, what is happening right here in this moment in the Oval Office with Donald Trump? This is racist, vile, and disgusting. And it's all meant to distract that MAGA base. Absolutely just filth at the Oval Office today.
It's great replacement theory, though, too, in action, right? What Trump wants to do is he wants to get the white Afrikaners to come into the United States to replace brown and black people. Like, let's be blunt and not mince words what he's trying to do. The white Afrikaners, though, really don't want to come here. As you heard from the agriculture minister, there is violence in South Africa, but even they would rather be, by and large, in South Africa versus in the United States. And those questions...
So white men here. I want to...
The way the question, though, is even kind of framed, you have to understand the whole setup here is Trump wants to get rid of Venezuelans, Haitians, Colombians, Cubans, other Latinos for Trump, Hondurans, all of the groups, the Latinos for Trumps. He wants to get rid of them. He's taking away their temporary protected status. He doesn't want them here. If your color is brown or black, he inherently views you as a criminal. And so he wants you gone. So he's taking all of the steps to do that. I mean, we've learned even more today that people who are showing up, who are here through lawful process, asylum, or going through the immigration process, the Department of Homeland Security is now immediately dismissing these cases against the migrants who show up for their immigration appearance, so that as they show up at immigration court or to just kind of check in, they get arrested, detained, and then sent back right away. So they want to get rid of the Latinos for Trump and Haitians for Trump. And if your skin color looks a certain way, and then they want to bring in the Afrikaners. They want to bring in the white South. They want to direct replacement, hence the great replacement theory. So that's what they're trying to accomplish. And you see it happen in the Oval Office. And the president of South Africa is like, what are you showing me? What is this? What are you doing? And I'll tell you who's smiling: Xi Jinping of China. He's smiling. And frankly, even other people who are competitive to the United States are loving it. I mean, you have French President Emmanuel Macron leading delegations from the European Union, taking trips to Southeast Asia and other places in Asia, basically saying, all right, we're the stabilizing force. China's out there saying we're the stabilizing force. Canada saying we're the stabilizing force. Do business with us. And the reason why the American bonds are such a disaster right now, why the 10, 20, 30-year treasury yields are reaching record highs right now, is because in these bond auctions, nobody wants to buy our notes, where they used to be the safest, most secure place to put your money. No one wants to buy our notes anymore. Instead, they're buying it elsewhere. So that's why you see the 30-year yield reaching record highs, and it just keeps going up and up and up and up, and it's a real problem. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about how this budget deal exacerbates the problem. We can talk a little bit more about this Oval Office appearance, but I think we've covered it a lot, and I think y'all understand what went down there without me saying this clip, that clip. I think we all sufficiently get what transpired. But let's take a quick break for the show. I want to remind everybody about a few things. MeidasPlus.com, that's our Substack. Check it out. We dropped that exclusive article today that Brett mentioned, MeidasPlus.com. Subscribe to our YouTube, subscribe to the MeidasTouch on audio as well. We've got a lot of people who listen to Rogan giving 1-star reviews to the show. Help us. Wherever audio podcasts are available, search MeidasTouch, give it a 5-star review if you think this deserves a 5-star review. Also, our Patreon is patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Sometime next week, we'll do a live Patreon meeting. If you want to meet me, Brett, and Jordy, we can tell you about our New York trip, the Webbies, all of that. It also supports our network. We don't have outside investors, and we're still beating Fox and all cable news. And it's thanks to things like this, and it's thanks to our pro-democracy sponsors. So let's take a quick break, hear from those pro-democracy sponsors. We'll be right back. Look, starting a new business can be intimidating. I get it. MeidasTouch Network was not built overnight. You need the tools to help you engage in the day-to-day tasks, the growth. And so it's why we use Shopify. It made things easy for us. And I think you should use Shopify too. So Shopify is a commerce platform. It is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the United States. From household names like Mattel and Gymshark to brands like the MeidasTouch Network. Get started with your own design studio with hundreds of ready-to-use templates. Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store to match your brand style, accelerate your content creation. Shopify is packed with helpful AI tools that write product descriptions, page headlines, and even enhance your product photography. Get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you. Even if you don't, easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling to the MeidasTouch Network. And best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert. And with its world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond, you can count on Shopify. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. So turn your big business idea into boom, boom, boom with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/Meidas. Go to shopify.com/Meidas. One more time. That's shopify.com/Meidas.
The older I get, the more I find myself wanting to be more intentional about the way I live, eat, and take care of my body. That's why I'm so happy I found Mosh. Mosh, which you may have heard about on Shark Tank, was founded by Maria Shriver and her son Patrick Schwarzenegger with a simple mission: to create a conversation about brain health through food, education, and research. Maria's father suffered from Alzheimer's, and since then, she and Patrick have dedicated themselves to finding ways to help other families dealing with this debilitating disease. Mosh joined forces with the world's top scientists and functional nutritionists to go beyond your average protein bar. With 8 delicious flavors, including a plant-based one in peanut butter and chocolate, each Mosh bar is made with ingredients that support brain health like ashwagandha, lion's mane, collagen, and omega-3s. And now Mosh bars come with a new look and new formulation featuring a game-changing brain-boosting ingredient that you won't find in any other bar. Mosh is now the first and only food brand boosted with Cognizant, a premium nootropic that supplies the brain with a patent form of acetylcholine. But here's the best part: to make you feel good, Mosh donates a portion of all proceeds from your order to fund gender-based brain health research through the Women's Alzheimer's Movement. Why gender-based? Because 2/3 of all Alzheimer's patients are women. Mosh is working closely to close the gap between women and men's health research. Personally, I love the taste of my Mosh bars. My favorite is the peanut butter crunch, which I have each morning before I head off to the gym. Now, if you want to find ways to give back to others and fuel your body and your brain, Mosh bars are the perfect choice for you. Head to moshlife.com/Meidas to save 20% off plus free shipping on the bestseller trial pack. That's 20% off plus free shipping on the bestsellers trial pack at moshlife.com/Meidas. Thank you, Mosh, for sponsoring this episode. Let's go. Shout out to our pro-democracy sponsors. Links in the description of both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes. Let them know we sent you if there's an exit survey. I got one more thing, everybody, before we get into the next topic. I don't want to lose sight of this. It's Memorial Day weekend. We got a Memorial Day sale. Store.MeidasTouch.com. We got new designs up there. Wet Hot Democracy Summer, an incredible Because Truth is Golden new tee up there. It's awesome. And yeah, we got some tanks for summertime, some new stickers. Check it out. Use code TRUTH. TRUTH, truth, at store.MeidasTouch.com. Get 10% off running our Memorial Day sale. So thank you guys.
You know, Donald Trump is spending this evening hosting a private event for people who have bought his meme coin. And the Trump regime refuses to release the names of the people who he's meeting with. It's believed that over 75% of the people there are either from foreign countries or have foreign ties. It's a group of, I think, 22 people who have each spent on average, about $1 million. These are some people who were under criminal investigation before for their involvement in serious crypto issues, but who now are sitting there at the table, embraced by a felon, in Donald Trump. And I just think that's a theme we need to keep on talking about. Donald Trump is a felon, and he's behaving as felons behave. It's why he should be behind bars. I don't want to normalize, any of this, frankly. So Caroline Leavitt, Donald Trump's chief propagandist, the way North Korea's Kim Jong-un has a purple dressed lady, America has Caroline Leavitt, just similar, just right out of central casting. And she's asked a question that's also asked the way you would ask a question in an authoritarian regime. So, Donald Trump, you all value transparency. No, they don't. So can we get the names of the people who are going to be there? Just watch this interaction. Play this clip.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here. Garrett, go ahead.
Caroline, you guys are very proud of your record on transparency. I have 2 transparency-related questions for you.
Sure.
On the president's dinner tonight, will the White House commit to making a list of the attendees public so people can see who's paying for that kind of access to the president?
Well, as you know, Garrett, this question has been raised with the president. I have also addressed the dinner tonight. The president is attending it in his personal time. It is not a White House dinner. It's not taking place here at the White House, but certainly I can raise that question and try to get you an answer for it. Okay, and on the Qatari aircraft, the Air Force has said they're going to classify all the information about the work that has to get done to bring it up to snuff to be Air Force One. Previous Air Force One contracts, including the one that the president entered into in 2018, are public. That's available knowledge. Will the White House commit to releasing who's doing that work and the cost of that work? I understand that some elements might be classified about specific systems,
Will you commit to releasing that basic information so people can see ultimately what this costs?
Well, Garrett, as you know, that's a question for the Department of Defense and the United States Air Force, who is accepting this jet as part of their fleet.
Declassify anything he wants.
Well, you'll have to ask the Department of Defense and the United States Air Force, who is accepting this jet as part of its fleet. Peter.
The president.
Again, it's being given to Donald Trump for Trump's hypothetical presidential library is what they're claiming it as. And so now they're going with the Department of Defense is accepting it as part of its fleet. So even if that is the case, which it isn't, how embarrassing. America gets the seconds or the thirds from Qatar. That's that's who we are. Also, do you see the pattern here? We don't get to know who's at the meme coin dinner. We don't get to get the information about Air Force One. The Trump regime has filed this emergency petition yesterday with the United States Supreme Court saying that all of Doge activities should be privileged, so they never have to respond to a Freedom of Information Act request. It should all fall under executive privilege and other immunities so that we can never know what Doge was communicating about, what it was. I thought they said they wanted transparency. Nope, they're trying to block it all and prevent Freedom of Information Act requests. The MAGA Republicans want to rush through their disastrous bill at 1 a.m. in the morning. Like, do you sense a pattern here? Go back to it. Trump is a felon. Trump is a criminal. Okay. This is how felons and criminals act. This is how they behave. They want to hide the things. They want to do it in a sneaky way. If they loved it, why wouldn't you just go and brag about it? If this was such a great deal, why wouldn't you talk about it? Why wouldn't you do all that? Instead, what they want public is the lies and the disinformation, and they want to keep the truth private. It's why our slogan is truth is golden, because we want to shed light on just what is happening so that people can get objective data and make informed decisions about what's taking place here. Let me pass this to Brett and Jordy. What do you think about that? Let me also share with you as well. Or Brett, if you want to know, what do you think about that?
No, I mean, it's just the most corruption. You know, I just have a problem with the lack of honesty here with when they say they want to be efficient, where they say they want to cut costs, all this stuff. And the fact that the media often goes along with this, basically always goes along with this complete and utter scam. Like, just because they say they are quote unquote fiscal conservatives, or Ben, I know you mock them all the time for saying they're fiscal hawks. You know, yeah, I was waiting for, I paused for sound effect. I knew it was coming. But just because they say that all the time doesn't mean that you have to then parrot it, no pun intended, and act like that is true. Because throughout history, that has never been true. And yes, both parties spend, but when you look on the whole about who has been better for the economy, who has actually spent less, who has had lower deficits, who's added more to the debt, you see a big difference in this area, especially when you look at what presidents have balanced the budget. You see, like Bill Clinton. When you look at what presidents explode the deficit more than anybody in history, you see Donald Trump, you see George W. Bush. And the same things happen with each administration. And the fact that they still get away with this scam is just absolutely insane to me. And all these Republicans just go along with it. And all the people just go along with it. And it's so mind-numbing to me that they could act like they're saving all this money from Doge, which they weren't at all. Doge is going to cost us money. Doge, I think, is going to cost us trillions of dollars based on what they did with the IRS alone. But then you see them put forward this bill after months and months and months of saying, you don't deserve your job, federal employee. You don't deserve your job because we need to save money, so you are fired. We're saying you're bad at your job now, you're fired. Or just the ridiculousness when you look back at like them cutting subscriptions for like Microsoft Office and like Adobe Photoshop and things that cost, $30 a month, $50 a month, just like the things that allow the people to actually do their jobs, taking that away, causing all this chaos, only to then come to the House floor with a bill that calls to increase the debt ceiling by $4 trillion, to explode the deficit by trillions, to explode the debt by, I think it's like 30 trillion. It's like the craziest number over 10 years. It's absolutely bonkers. And to look the American people in the straight face and say that this is actually going to save us money. This is actually a good thing. And while everything in that bill goes to take the money from the people who need it and give the money to the people who absolutely do not need it, it is just sick. The whole thing is just so sickening from start to finish.
Well, that's the thing, it's just the pattern that we've seen from this regime time and time again. They really don't give a damn about the American people. I mean, how many times do we have to see this play out? They care about lining their own pockets by any means, and they lie easier than they breathe. It's just unbelievable to really see play out. And Ben, you're right. I mean, looking at Levitt up there, like what in the Kim Jong-un are we even looking at that she could just lie like that and just have no remorse for what she's even doing up there? It's just brutal to see play out.
You take a look at just each aspect of not just government, but the things that make America successful. That we were a beacon of financial stability, and we see the Trump regime wrecking that with their malicious and reckless trade war against the world. By the way, zero deals in 90 days so far. They've made no deals. The United Kingdom thing was not a deal. If you actually read the document, it says this is not a binding deal, like literally a fake deal. And if it did anything, it gave special exemptions for Jaguar, Rolls-Royce, and Land Rover, who get preferential treatment to American car manufacturers who are hit with the higher tariffs from Mexico and Canada. What we did with China was not a deal. It was the United States caving. It was a consensus, is why China calls it a consensus, not a deal. And the consensus was America lost. That's China mocking the United States also, because the United States just removed 145% tariffs, made it 30% tariffs, which is still a 30% tariff, a 30% tax on the American people. China lowered its tariff to 10% because they want to tax their own people less. And so for China, it was the biggest win imaginable for them out of that. That's not a deal. And so now we're approaching, the next 90-day deadline. And what's Trump saying he's going to do? He's going to reimpose unilaterally the tariffs again and call that a deal. So it's like, here we go again through this cycle. So in terms of financial stability, Trump screwed that. In terms of attracting the top engineers and scientists and doctors and professionals from across the world, they're destroying that. I mean, their attacks on education, their attacks on immigrants, their attack on science, now Canada, China, Europe, they're out there recruiting in universities. Come here, we'll protect you. Don't worry. We've got your back here. In terms of dismantling healthcare, I mean, obviously, we know that this budget will take away healthcare from 14 million Americans, supplemental nutrition assistance programs from millions of Americans, rental assistance, right? Trump, who promised to make housing more affordable, mortgage rates are now above 7% and may even go higher than that. But when we talk about people living paycheck to paycheck who need rental assistance, the budget of HUD is being cut dramatically as well. And rental assistance programs are going to be destroyed. You see them dismantling FEMA. You see them dismantling our national parks. Donald Trump is legitimately turning the United States into a shithole, like in every aspect, a Trump cesspool, because he's lived in cesspools. Go back to what I started. He's lived in cesspools. He's a felon. Let's establish that. He's a felon. He's a sexual abuser. This is a bad person who lives in filth. In cesspool, and what I mean by that though is in crime, in evil, in suffer. That's what he does, and he wants to bring that everywhere. And the budget is something that reflects that. I mean, just take a look at his dog killer cosplaying Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, her appearance on Fox, where she's bragging that the Trump regime unlawfully is telling all the international students currently enrolled at Harvard that they're now considered unlawful and they're about to get deported. And she basks in the delight of this. And then she's like, all the other universities, you're next. Here, watch her say this.
As you mentioned, 18% of Harvard's freshman class this year are foreign. They're foreigners here on student visas. What happens? Where do they go now? What do they do?
Yeah, we have given Harvard multiple opportunities to give us the documentation that we've requested to conduct oversight. We've asked them for the backgrounds on students that attend their university, their criminal activity on campus, off of campus, any video or audio footage they have of this violent activity, and they have just simply not complied. This is something that they need to do in order to comply with this program as it was established. And so, unfortunately, all of their foreign students will face the consequences of Harvard's lack of protecting the individuals that go there. So 27% of their students are foreign students, and they will have to find some other university to go to, and hopefully they find one that cares about them and provides a safe environment.
And then here she is saying that this should send a message to other universities. Play this clip.
Could you foresee, or are you now considering similar moves with other universities like Columbia that has allowed Jewish students to be threatened and made unsafe?
Absolutely. We are absolutely. This should be a warning to every other university to get your act together. Get your act together, because we are coming to make sure that these programs, that you are facilitating an environment where students can learn, where they're safe, and that they're not discriminated against based on their race or their religion. Anti-Semitism will not be stood for, and any participation with a country or an entity or a terrorist group that hates America and perpetuates this kind of violence, we will stop it, and we will not allow that to happen, especially in places where our kids need to grow up and really learn what this country is about, what the world is about, and what it means to promote freedom and liberty.
The hell are they even talking about? And that is what authoritarianism looks like right there.
You know what really sickens me, honestly, too, just like on a fundamental level, as like a Jewish person, to hear them weaponize the idea of anti-Semitism in order to push their authoritarian agenda. That truly, truly sickens me, because Kristi Noem does not speak for me. Donald Trump does not speak for me. And when they go out there and they say, we are clamping down on peaceful protests to protect from anti-Semitism, we are sending these students, we are kicking them out of the country because of anti-Semitism, I think that's a dark road to go down. I'm not with it. I'm not okay with it whatsoever. Like I said, they do not speak for me. And I think it's just atrocious for them to do it. I think that is the real anti-Semitism, which is weaponizing anti-Semitism, which actually takes away from real anti-Semitism out there, the bad stuff that is really going on. I mean, yesterday we saw 2 people killed outside a Jewish museum in Washington, D.C., outside of an Israeli embassy. That's real anti-Semitism, okay? People peacefully protesting, whatever the cause may be, that's not it, okay? So stop using that and stop trying to weaponize people's pain about real horrific stuff that is going on to achieve your political ends. I just think it's a disgrace, and I wanted to say that.
You saw there as well, there was a tracker of flight delays. The disaster, going back to my dismantling of all aspects, dismantling the Department of Education. By the way, there was a court ruling today blocking the Trump regime from dismantling the Department of Education, basically saying, it's an unlawful impoundment act by the Trump regime that you're not funding, the Department of Education. They're not funding FEMA. They're not funding the agencies. So what they're doing in order to rip these agencies apart, to rip them to shreds, is they're just not funding the agencies, and they're trying to let these agencies die. But you take a look at the basic functioning of our government. Yes, there are storms around the country, but by the way, Donald Trump hasn't even acknowledged that 28 people died in massive storms or more now in Missouri, Indiana, Kentucky, and elsewhere. But the overall airplane situation right now, airport situation, is a disaster in the United States. And, I don't think it's being sufficiently covered by corporate media. At the most basic level, our government's not doing the most basic things, while Donald Trump is hosting a meme coin dinner for himself. And Brett, after you see Caroline Leavitt basically say, oh, this is his personal time. Well, if it's his personal time, then explain to me Donald Trump posting. There's no such thing as personal time. When you're in president, you're the president. Personal time. Heading to the crypto dinner in Virginia in a little while. The USA is dominating in crypto Bitcoin, and we're going to keep it that way. This is an event to, as she said, personal time, to enrich himself. But do you see how he morphs country with him? And the big problem, too, is that he is a felon. He's a loser. He's a criminal. He's a sexual abuser. And he's behaving the way criminals and felons behave. And that is disastrous for a country that needs to function. It's why, when all of these, to me, pathetic, corporate CEOs and everybody who tried to be like, oh, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. You would never hire this guy. You would never hire him in your company. A board would never approve this guy to hold any position. He can never become a board member of a serious company. He'd be, I think, banned based on his background anyway, but he can never do that. So if you can't meet the basic qualifications for being even a mid-level executive at a company, why are you running the United States of America? To me, it's not a political thing. It's just that simple for me. Anyway, when we come back, I want to share some more insight on that. We have a lot more to discuss. I want to talk about the Supreme Court ruling on these independent agencies and what the import of it is, how it's going to address the Federal Reserve situation as well. Reminder, go to store.MeidasTouch.com. Get that pro-democracy gear. We have 10% off. Store.MeidasTouch.com. Check it out right now. We got some great gear as well. 10% off. Patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Subscribe there. MeidasPlus.com. Subscribe there. We don't have outside investors. So look, we're beating Fox News, and I put news in quotes, and all these other cable channels the way we built it. So help us continue that path, and we appreciate it. Let's take our last quick break of the show.
Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone vulnerable. It's easier than ever to find personal information about people online. Your home address, phone number, even your family members' names just sitting out there for anyone to see. And these days, we've seen how online trolls and bad actors use that information to target political voices, government workers, and everyday people just speaking out. As someone with a very online presence who has been the victim of attacks in the past, privacy is more important to me now than ever. I personally use Delete Me, and it's given me real peace of mind knowing they're removing my personal data from hundreds of data broker websites. I can focus on my work and speaking up without constantly worrying about who's got my info. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me, now at a special discount for our listeners. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/Meidas and use promo code Meidas at checkout. That's MEIDAS. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/Meidas and enter code Meidas at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/Meidas, code Meidas, MEIDAS.
When your car breaks down, you take it to a mechanic with no hesitation. You need it, and it's not something that most guys can fix themselves. And men should think the exact same way about ED. But the reality is you might be hesitant to seek help. Thankfully, through HIMS, you can get access to personalized ED treatments without stepping outside your door. HIMS is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. HIMS provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints and Viagra and Cialis and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. Just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, HIMS can help you find the ED option that works for you. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/Meidas. That's HIMS.com/Meidas for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/Meidas. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products, which are not covered by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
My dogs, Taquito and Chiquito, are the happiest dogs ever. You know why? Because I give them Sundays for Dogs, which is, let's face it, the best dog food ever. What I love about Sundays for Dogs is that, like, unlike other fresh dog food, Sundays does not require refrigeration or preparation because of their air drying process. You just pour it and serve it, and you can cancel or pause your subscription with Sundays for Dogs at any time with their 14-day money-back guarantee. It's fresh dog food. It's made from a short list of human-grade ingredients, which I love and I know my doggies love. It was co-founded by Dr. Tori Waxman, a practicing veterinarian who tests and formulates every version of each recipe. And Sundays contains 100% all-natural meat and superfoods and 0% synthetic nutrients or artificial ingredients. So here's the deal we negotiated for your puppies, because I want them to be as happy as mine. Get 40% off your first order of Sundays. Go to sundaysfordogs.com/Meidas or use code Meidas at checkout. Go to sundaysfordogs.com/Meidas or use code Meidas at checkout. My doggies, Taquito and Chiquito, tell me that your doggies will love Sundays also.
Let's go. Links in description of both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes, let them know we sent you. Brett, your read was fantastic for Delimi, but Benji, that Sundays for Dogs read, I mean, that was probably your best work yet, big bro. So excellent job. And just want a housekeeping note here right before break. Ben told you about Memorial Day sale on store.MeidasTouch.com with a 10% off. You have to use code TRUTH, TRUTH, though, at checkout. Truth at checkout, store.MeidasTouch.com. We're running our Memorial Day sale. Benji, where to next?
I want to remind everybody earlier this week, the headlines versus the reality. And we try to bring you the reality and let you know when the headlines are BS. So you all remember that Donald Trump had that phone call with Vladimir Putin. And then Donald Trump said, we made major progress. I've agreed to let Vladimir Putin and Ukraine speak directly together. I did it. What great progress. This is what I promised you. No, you promised that you would bring peace to Ukraine in 24 hours. You said it would be easy. You said that you've got a great relationship with Zelensky and Putin. You'd bring them in a room together. You'd be there and it would be simple. And it would actually happen before you took office. You actually had an opportunity 2 weeks ago in Istanbul to show up there and actually try to exert real pressure and leadership, because Putin announced, and we all knew it was Putin propaganda and a lie, but he said he wanted to negotiate with Zelensky directly in Istanbul. So Zelensky said, okay, I'll be there in Istanbul. I'm there. I booked my flight. We can do it in Istanbul or anywhere else in Turkey or anywhere else you want to do it. And hey, Donald, Zelensky said, why don't you show up as well? It was a brilliant move by Zelensky. And ultimately, Putin said he's not showing. Then Donald Trump said that he's not showing because Trump said he didn't want to disappoint the United Arab Emirates. that was actually said I couldn't disappoint the United Arab Emirates. So why would I go and try to broker the peace deal, which I said was one of the most important things in my campaign. It was utterly pathetic. But then you fast forward and Trump was like, I'm doing the phone call. And of course, the corporate media is like, he's doing the phone call. I'm like, all right, it's obviously a BS phone call. I was like, where's Putin taking the phone call from, right? Because I want to get a vibe of it. Putin was taking the phone call from an elementary school in southeast Russia. So like the very place Putin was doing it in was intended to show disrespect. And like, I don't know, I'm doing it at an elementary school. Like watch me treat him like shit was basically what Putin was doing. And then Trump gave this announcement after saying that he was needed in order to broker a negotiation, saying, I told them they work together. I'm like, okay, we all know that what Donald Trump really did was he capitulated. He surrendered. He said, I'm out, which is even more than just surrendering. It's basically telling Putin, you do what you got to do. We're not going to do anything. We're not going to impose sanctions. I'm not going to do anything. It shows once again that Donald Trump will always kind of talk this big game, but everybody knows he doesn't follow through with anything. That's one of the reasons he's done 0 deals in 90 days, because everybody knows you just wait until the deadline. The American markets start to collapse. Donald Trump panics. He sends his people to beg for a deal. And then he issues a stupid press conference where he claims that he wins. The real terms come out. He looks like a fool, but then, people forget about it in theory, and then they move on to the next one. And then he floods the zone with more disinformation, which ultimately is weakening the United States of America. So once again, we've been proven correct. Donald Trump did not do anything with Putin. Things are getting worse. Putin continues to kill innocent Ukrainians. Ukraine continues to agree to an unconditional ceasefire. And while Donald Trump is sitting there with the president of South Africa, and mind you, South Africa is part of the BRICS bloc of Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and other countries. So you would think you diplomatically, Trump, want to try to make inroads to convince a nation like South Africa, especially if Donald Trump purports to care about rare earth minerals and other natural resources and ways to work together, to maybe do more trade with the purpose of it was to talk about trade. But then he basically, while Trump is there with the South African president, Donald Trump shows like obsequiousness to Putin. He shows what a Putin puppet he is, because then he's like Putin should be part of the G7. I wish Russia was there. I wish we had a G8. And you're saying that in front of the South African president when the message you're sending to all the other BRICS bloc countries is, oh my, they're all talking shit about him, right? You all know they're going, oh my God, this guy's like the weakest ever. And what makes it more dangerous is when our media propagandizes it like he's not. Like if they just said it, we could get the news that the rest of the world's getting, because they're laughing. You know how Trump's like, they were laughing at us. No, they weren't. Now they actually are laughing at us. They're all laughing at us. They're either horrified if they were our former allies, or they're laughing at us. So let me show you Trump saying that. Let's play this clip.
Are you coming, and are you preparing to come?
So without the United States, the G20, just like the G7, used to be the G8, but brilliantly they threw Russia out. It would have been a lot better if Russia was in. A lot of people would say, oh, that's not it. Because if Russia was in, you probably wouldn't have this war. And if you had a different president, you wouldn't have the war either.
And again, you see the South African president looking at him like, what in the hell? And then you have his Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, speaking at this Axios event. And here you have Lutnick saying how, look, everybody's doing well now. First, Lutnick's a billionaire. Okay, Lutnick's worth over $1 billion, this guy. And this is the guy that basically said, if you miss a Social Security check and you complain, you must be a scammer. You're a fraud. My mom, he goes, my mom, she's 94. She would never complain if Social Security didn't give her her check, because she would be like a criminal and she should be investigated. She would never do that. So this guy speaks in front of the Axios and he's like, no one's feeling the pain because of tariffs. It's like, everything's fine. What are we talking? Everything is good. Are you feeling pain? He goes to the audience and the audience is like, yes, we are. Yes, we're feeling pain. And mind you, this audience, this Axios audience, I have a feeling, I could be wrong. I'm just doubting that you're going to have a cross section of factory workers at this Axios event. Just my guess. And they're saying, we're hurting. What are you talking about? Watch this.
Everything in the world's got 10%. You go to the store now, are you feeling the pain? No. Why not? Because there is no pain. Because what happens is the sellers, the producers, the sellers, and the currencies change, and the price effectively mostly goes away. I'm not, what's the inflation rate in America? 2-odd%? Okay, 2-odd%. But seriously, for the month of May, every product in the world's got 10% on it right now, with no exceptions, no exclusions. That we have 25% on cars and that are coming in from out. Do any of you feel anything? Because I want you to understand, in the month of May, the United States of America is going to take in $35 billion towards our deficit of tariff revenue in the month of May.
And consumers will feel that.
Well, I said it's already on. This is on since April. So
But
when
consumers will
it's not that the tariff is coming, it's on. Have any of you felt any of it? Seriously.
Brett.
He was just silent after that. Everything about Howard Lutnick, by the way, like the guy always comes off as the sleaziest of sleaze imaginable. It is just hearing his voice. I just like have a feeling that the guy reeks of cigarettes. Like I know his whole vibe. I know this guy's whole vibe. And we could look it up and we could pull this up right here, right? This is what Google says. Howard Lutnick is a billionaire. He is the current United States Secretary of Commerce and is also the chairman of Cantor Fitzgerald, where he owns 60% of the firm. His net worth is estimated to be at least $1.5 billion. So a real man of the people. I wonder why your old mother, Howard Lutnick, is not worried about her Social Security check. I wonder why she's not worried. You're worth $1.5 billion.
And inflation, 2% He's just saying words up there. Sorry, go ahead.
But just the concept that this guy and all these billionaires in Donald Trump's cabinet are trying to position themselves as we know what's best for working people. These are policies for working people. These are tax cuts for we're the working people party. Nothing they say or do, and maybe stuff they say, nothing they actually do lines up with that. So if I'm bringing it full circle from the beginning, just because these people say we're fiscal hawks and fiscally conservative does not make them so. Just because these people say we are the party of the working people does not make them so. All these programs that people get up in arms about and that they freak out about when Republicans try to come for them, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP, you name it, all of them Democrats. That's where they came from. And yet the Republicans try to strip it away. And what do these MAGA people sometimes say? What's like the comical version? They go, get your government hands off my Medicare. Get your government hands off my Medicaid. People like these programs. When people have access to these social safety net programs, they actually like them. That's why the United States is like the only country in the world that doesn't have a lot of these programs that other people really like. These politicians know that once Americans get a taste of what these other countries get, even just a little bit, that they actually like when government is there actually working effectively. But the Republicans always want to ensure that it doesn't work effectively. They want to make sure that they hamstring the government so then they could point and say, look, I told you government doesn't work. I told you it's not efficient. I told you that it's a waste. And while they do that, what are they doing? Under the guise of less government, they are taking your money away from you. It's literally what's happening with this bill right now. So we're going to see what happens as this goes on, right? With the going back to the GOP tax scam bill. It's not law yet. It's still got to go through the Senate. The Senate is going to have to come up with their own version of this bill. I think oftentimes, quite frankly, I think one of the strategies that the House Republicans do is they add all this crazy stuff to try to appease Donald Trump or throw red meat to their base that they ultimately know the Senate, or they hope that the Senate is going to strip out before voting for it. This is a thing that could pass through reconciliation, which means, 50 plus 1 votes. It's passed. It's law. You see this major redistribution of wealth from the working people of this country to the wealthiest of this country. And everybody needs to wake up and stop. I'm not talking about this audience. You all know. But all these people who are under the guise, who are under the illusion that these people have my interests at heart, I assure you they do not. And when Democrats do a good job at fighting back, we should shout them out. When we see, Congressman McGovern out there doing what he's got to do, staying up. I mean, these people are up, 48 hours straight, basically. I every time I saw, Asen was up all night last night. Asen, who works with MeidasTouch, posting these clips.
Asen's the GOAT, man.
Unbelievable. Our editorial team following all this stuff. But when you see, at least they're putting in the work, when it matters. They're getting out there. They're exposing what's going on. They're trying to warn the American people, at least, because quite frankly, that's the only power that they have right now, them being out of power. But they're trying to sound the alarm, and they're trying to let people know the craziness of this bill. Did you know that there's a provision in this bill to remove the federal excise tax for tanning beds, for indoor tanning? That wouldn't have come out if not for Democrats cross-examining these Republicans during their bill. Did you know that they are trying to change the name MAGA, the word MAGA, which is bad enough to have in this bill and have it be associated with any government program, to Trump? He wants to put his name on your baby's trust account? What the hell? These are all the things that have been being exposed. So it's great to see that sort of fight. I think we got to ensure, we got to hold these people's feet to the fire, but we got to acknowledge, it's become so cool on the internet, I think, to just like hate on everything the Democrats do and criticize every little thing. And I understand there's frustration. I understand there's anger. I understand there's anxiety. I understand there are like people who are just pissed off about the way the election went, and they're looking to redirect their anger. But at a certain point, we got to figure out what are the collective actions we could take to actually fight back and expose the real issues of this country, which is right now this malignant strain of Trumpism, MAGA, this Republican Party as it exists today. We need to keep our sights set on who's actually destroying our country right now, because this is not a normal moment in time.
And let me just add to this, Brett, because I don't think we touched on this. Think about when they passed that bill over Wednesday night, Thursday morning. Think about that. It was all through the night in the dead of dark. Shady things happen at that time, right? The MAGA Republicans are the Republican Party. They're telling you that they don't want you, the American people, to see this. And I'm so just grateful for the MeidasTouch community and especially our editorial staff here that they stayed up all through the night and put things on record for everybody to see the words play out and what was happening. I mean, what are they, the Baltimore Colts? Moving at midnight? Like that's the type of behavior that happens when you don't want folks to see what you're doing. And it is just so despicable and disgusting. Like, government should be as transparent as possible. And sure, I guess in theory it is, right? It's taped or whatever. They're doing it intentionally at that time, in the dead of night, in the earliest of the mornings, the AMs, so that they hope that you miss it. And so that Donald Trump could go into the White House and the Oval Office the next day and say, you know what you need to focus on? Not what happened at 2, 3 a.m. last night when we took away SNAP for millions of Americans. Don't look at that. Don't look at the 401ks. No, care about the white South Africans, the genocide, then just push these bizarre conspiracies and give his base that red meat. But thankfully, we got this pro-democracy community right here, the Meidas Mighty, and folks that just want the truth and just want the information. So thank you guys again for being truth tellers and truth seekers, because this, this is absurd times. And don't be gaslit by anyone out there trying to tell you that this stuff is normal. Nothing that we're witnessing right now is normal.
Let me give a few other pieces of data before we go. Number one, June 14th, no King's Day protests across the country. What can you do right now as we're live on May 22nd? Just start telling everybody about it. It's going to be run by Indivisible. We're going to be having the leaders of Indivisible on the MeidasTouch network over and over again for the next few weeks. And of course, we're going to be covering the protests here. It is a major part of our priorities of the MeidasTouch network to cover the peaceful protests and to allow a distribution network for the word to get out. How does the word get out? You watching this, share, take screenshots right now of this, and then send the screenshots to people that you know. That's an easy thing. It's free to do it. Just text photos of this graphic that's on. And if you're listening to audio, just tell people June 14th, Indivisible, 5150. Other groups are going to be running these protests. So make sure that you get the word out about these protests. Two.
And I'll just say, Ben, let me just add, if you can't, that's totally fine. Also, I don't want anybody to feel pressured, and some people physically
can get the word out.
Make it to this thing, but get the word out. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You all have a platform. You all have social media. You all have text messages, family, friends. Just get the word out. Spread the message. The power of the people is really the most important thing right now, and that's why we're seeing such a shift just across all things. It's because people are stepping up and they're saying no to the corporations. They're saying no to the old ways of doing things. The traditional media. They are saying no. We have the power. We're going to take this into our own hands.
This past week, Democrats won a big New York Senate special election, 68% in a deep red district carried by Trump by 56 points in 2024. Actually, it was 33 points that this Democrat, Sam Sutton, won this District 22, by 33 points. Trump won that seat by 55 to 56 points, or he won the seat. He won that district, that area. There was about an 88% overperformance by Democrats in that Senate district. 88%. Okay. So all of this fits together, though, because that's why peaceful protests take to the streets peacefully and make sure we preserve and protect our elections. Show the power of the people, because we got to fight to have elections in 2026. And we, the people, have the power. So let's get out there, because when we're out there, pro-democracy voices can have an overwhelming effect. Now, the last thing I want to cover, because I promised I would at the outset, but on our Legal AF YouTube channel, also our Katie Fang YouTube channel. Everybody subscribe to the Katie Fang YouTube channel. Katie Fang has officially joined the MeidasTouch Network. We announced a few weeks back that she was going to join, but now we've got it all figured out for sure with the YouTube channel launch.
Can I just say how excited I am about this? Like, she is such an incredible talent, and to have her on the MeidasTouch Network on her own YouTube channel that we're building right here at Katie Fang News. So you go to youtube.com/@KatieFangNews to be able to hear from Katie again, have her opinions, have her analysis, the way she delivers the news, the way she gets into all like the intricacies of these legal cases. She is so incredibly brilliant. So you could tell I'm like so excited about this channel, and I've been loving all the reports that she's been putting out. I feel like we have been blessed with Katie Fang joining independent media, joining the MeidasTouch Network, being with us on YouTube. So let's show her the power of this community, folks, and check it out. youtube.com/@KatieFangNews. That's PHANG.
Let me break down the Supreme Court ruling on Trump's ability to fire the heads of independent agencies that was issued by the Supreme Court in their shadow docket, meaning it wasn't done through like an actual formal hearing. So Donald Trump fires board members from the National Labor Relations Board, and he fires the head of one of the commissioners from the Merit Systems Protections Board. A district court for the District of Columbia did an injunction to the Trump regime saying, no, you can't do that. Let's get them back to their jobs. Put them back into their jobs. Trump appealed that to the United States Supreme Court, and the United States Supreme Court says, nope, they don't get to go back into their jobs. We're going to stay that. They said the status quo is Trump fired them, even though the statutes that created these commissions require terminations be done for cause, and these terminations were done without cause at all. The Supreme Court says, we don't care. And the Supreme Court says it's got to be a for cause. It doesn't matter if it's without cause or for cause. Trump has the ability to fire the heads of these independent agencies. Now that changes decades and decades and decades of precedent here, where if an agency was independent and created by Congress, and the statute says you have to fire them for cause, you have to fire them for cause. So this has serious ramifications. And it's basically the Supreme Court giving Donald Trump the green light to fire the heads of any independent agencies at all, whether it's the National Labor Relations Board, the Merit System Board, whoever. It's giving a green light to do that, except in the circumstance, it appears the only exception that would meet this rule as you read this is the Federal Reserve. And they actually say in this ruling that the Federal Reserve is going to be treated differently here. Let me try to find the line where it actually mentions this. But it goes on to say how the Federal Reserve is more analogous to the national banks. And so it goes, respondents Gwen Wilcox and Kathy Harris contend that the arguments in this case implicate the constitutionality of for-cause removal protections for members of the Federal Reserve's Board of Governors or other members of the Federal Open Market Committee. We disagree. The Federal Reserve is uniquely structured quasi-private entity that follows in the distinct historical tradition of the first and second banks of the United States. So the message really here, and by the way, the three liberal justices lodged a dissent to this and said, this is a horrible ruling and you're just overturning precedent through this shadow docket ruling without even oral argument. But there's the carve out is the Supreme Court telling Trump and the majority, you can't fire the Federal Reserve without cause. So anyway, I mean, and that's why I wanted to read the language to you. It's still a horrible ruling, and it's going to lead to Trump firing basically I think he's going to fire everyone, everybody now from all of these agencies. And the idea of independent agencies, is going to be destroyed, other than the Federal Reserve, with this ruling. So not good. It's also why we, the people, need to take back our power, and we need to show up on the streets peacefully, and we need to protest, and we need to get out there, and we need a massive statement on the streets, in the polls, in general. And as a media network, we just want to amplify pro-democracy voices here on the MeidasTouch Network, voices that follow the Constitution. That's where we'll be at. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Reminder, MeidasPlus.com. Please go there now and subscribe. Patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Check that out. Store.MeidasTouch.com. Store.MeidasTouch.com. 10% off sale. Store.MeidasTouch.com. Subscribe on audio. Wherever audio is available, make sure you subscribe to the audio podcast and leave a 5-star review. And I want to conclude the show also on Memorial Day, or even though we're recording this earlier, by recognizing, of course, all of those who made the ultimate sacrifice for our country, the brave men and women and people who have given their lives for our country, and everything they've done for our country deserves far more than a day of acknowledgement. We owe them our freedom. We owe them everything. And so it's in honor of them that we humbly try to fight for our democracy each and every day. So with that, Jordy, take it away.
Shout out to the Meidas Mighty. Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.